cat in the wall, eh? Okay, now you're talking my language.
You ever drunk Baileys from a shoe?
Oh, great. Thanks, Mother, for replacing the baby aspirin with LSD.
How much you want to make a bet I can throw a football over the mountain?
All right, welcome into the View from C-Deck. Casey and I just did a podcast about the college football playoff rankings. So if you want to hear our thoughts about that, we won't have it at the end of the podcast this week, but we will have our gambling thoughts after Casey back-to-back 4-1 weeks rocking it out here. The Dire with Delights. I may let you change the name after that kind of run there. Back over 500 on the year. I went 2-3. I got screwed by Utah not disclosing their quarterback info. That should be pulled off the board at Vegas. I don't even want to take it as a loss. I'll just say I was 2-2. And the Haas's handies struggling 0-5 week. Ooh. He's not even didn't even give us his picks for this week. It was so bad. He really didn't. So Jason, put him in the fucking comments, or I will whoop you. But a lot of big games this week. A lot of big games. And we usually start with Ohio State. Yeah, we'll still start with Ohio State, but fuck the SEC. Even though there's a 1 versus 3 game now with the CFP rankings. So Ohio State, huge favorite, 38, or I think it's up to 38.5 now. It doesn't matter. Against Northwestern, both the Direwolf and I feeling pretty confident about the Buckeyes. We'll also hit that over-under. I think it's 61.5 now. But I'll take the under because it looks like the weather may be turning into a little bit of a shit show. But I think Ohio State gets their first shutout of the year now. I'll go 42-0 Buckeyes. Covering the over.
Yeah, I'm thinking, I was going to say 52-10.
That's the over. Woo!
They get some touchdown going on, which normally happens late fourth quarter. But they are just so bad. They gave up 30, I think, to Iowa, maybe 33.
33.
Something like that. So, I mean,
first offense in the history of college football.
Scores 33, and we are arguably the best in the country. I guess you could say Tennessee is right now. But if we don't put up 45, then something's wrong. But the weather could come into play. Maybe we can work out some kinks, get the running game going a little bit if the weather's hurting us. But I picked them minus. I had it at 38, Ohio State.
We're both, you're a former turf guy. We're turf guys. That long grass in Evanston, and it's going to be raining and 20-mile-an-hour winds maybe. The running game better be getting brought because it could be pretty tricky to be throwing that ball around.
What was the over-under?
61.5.
Okay, I don't want to bet the over, though, so I'm going to change my score. Just because they could, if they score 0, which they could, I see
get the shutout. I think we get the shutout.
I don't see us scoring 62, so I'm going to say.
I don't see that. Not in that weather. All right. Okay. Now we can move on to the big game of the day, even though it's not a nooner. The big game of the day, maybe the biggest game of the year. Well, not until we play the game. Tennessee traveling to Athens to play freaking Georgia. Everybody knows about these teams. Georgia, the defending champs, have looked great. Huge injury news from them this week, though. Nolan Smith out for the rest of the season. Their leading sacker, their leader on defense, really, I think. Huge loss. It's like us losing Harrison, I would say. Comparable. +8 for Tennessee. I think I'm a believer in them. Even though I don't think they should be number 1 in the poll, like CFP committee just did. But I am a believer that they at least keep it close enough to cover that with the +8. And I've had a lot of luck on Tennessee this year. I think I'm 3-0 betting them. There's several teams I cannot bet at all, but Tennessee I got. But go Vols. Rock Talk.
I'd have to double check this. I believe they're like 7-1 against the spread or something like that this year. So it's I mean, eventually that has to even out, but I just see it being a really close game. This one, we were kind of talking before that it almost seems like the opposite of one of my ballsy picks, that they're number 1 in the country. They're 8-point dogs. It is on the road, which typically is 3 points. Could be a little bit more depending on where. Like Penn State, I'd say is more like 5 or 6 points. But 8.5, I mean, they can hang around all game long and lose by 7, and we're still good. I guess it's 8, but that's why I went with them. That number seemed a little bit high. I expected it to be more like 4.5 is what I thought it might be.
Yeah.
It's weirdly high, which makes me think Vegas thinks Georgia's going to kill him.
I do, and it hasn't moved much since the injury got announced.
Yeah.
You know,
Which,
you think you want to be full strength against that offense.
yeah. So that's what's got me. They could even win outright, but I get 8 points. So for me, that was an easy one, which makes me a little leery. But
I have to though. Well, that's one of my junk picks too, a junk delight, and it does make me nervous. Because the more you talk about it, the more nervous I'm getting. Like, well, God damn it, dude. Vegas does know something here, and I think a lot of it though is the statistics of how lowly rated the pass defense and the defense overall of Tennessee is versus Georgia actually has the number 2. It's the top 2 offenses from yardage point of view playing each other. So that makes the line make more sense to me, which makes me feel better.
yeah. I mean, Georgia's going to score some points, and Georgia is there. Tennessee's not going to just go right down the field every possession against Georgia. So that's probably, you're right with that. They're gonna hold Tennessee to their season low, I'm guessing, in points. And I don't know what their season low is, but I couldn't. They could hold it
against Pitt, I'm guessing. I think.
Yeah. So I'm thinking I could see them holding them to less than 38 for sure. But can Georgia score 45? I don't know.
Right. Man, that's gonna be a good game. I don't know who I'm gonna pick. I think I'll take the Tennessee like 38-35, something like that. Moving on to the actual chronological order of the slate. TCU and Texas Tech, one of the last undefeated teams. In TCU ranked number 7 though in the CFP poll, behind Bama. One loss Bama. Just throw it out there. Like I said, go listen to our other podcast about the CFP and our thoughts on that. But they 9.5-point favorites against Texas Tech. I've had trouble with Texas Tech this year in some of my games. I think I'm 1-1 with them actually. But I'll take TCU. I think maybe a 10-point win seems to be their favorite thing to do right now is win by 10. So I'll take it. Win by 10, another like 45-35 game.
They've definitely screwed me a little bit this year. Texas Tech has, because I know I picked Texas in that game when they lost, and they're probably pretty big favorites in that game. I'm guessing like 14 or more, and they lost outright in overtime. So I would stay away from that one for sure, just because of that. But if I had to,
that's not one of my picks.
Oh, okay. I would pick TCU though if I had to.
Yeah. Another new game that I did pick, though, kind of a low-key big one in the Big Ten, especially for the Terps of Maryland traveling to Wisconsin. 5-point dogs against the Badgers, and I'm taking the Badgers. I want Maryland to win. I think it's very good for Ohio State if that happens, even though they play both teams. But Maryland are already 6-2. They're going to end up ranked if they win this game, I would say. Probably every poll. That good offense against whatever Wisconsin is now, but they've been playing a lot better since Jim Leonard became the head coach after they fired Paul Chryst with the thumping of Northwestern and then a pretty solid win over a pretty solid Purdue team, and a Purdue team that beat Maryland earlier this year. So I think they at least win by 7. I don't trust Maryland's D to hold up against the physical against Braylon Allen, to be honest with you. So I'm thinking like 31-24, something like that.
I was actually almost going to pick the Maryland game because I do have some faith in their offense, but you're right, though. Wisconsin has been playing better ever since that coach firing, which is still baffling to me. But, I mean, beneficial to Ohio State, though. I mean, would you rather the end of our season, the resume be like 2 7-5 teams or a 6-6 and a 9-3? It's
6-6 and 9-3 all day.
See, I don't know about that because if 9-3 is not ranked, I'm not sure that the 6-6 really is considered a decent win, where 2 7-5s is 2 good wins.
A 9-3 P5 team is ranked at the end of the year. I'd almost guarantee it.
Maybe, but they're in the Big
That
Ten.
means they beat Penn State also if they're 9-3.
Oh yeah, so they still play Penn State. So yeah, if they beat Penn State and they're 9-3, I guess they would be. So I guess I would take that, but I think it's debatable. Either way, I think it's decent for us, because then Wisconsin would be what, 5-4?
Win, yeah. Wisconsin very well could go 8-4 and end up in the damn championship game. I mean, probably not though. Illinois got the tiebreaker on them, but
yeah. So if they go 8-4, I mean, I guess they won't be ranked because they'd have 4 losses. But either way, I think it'd be decent, the outcome. But I would pick Maryland in this one. I was a little surprised by that spread, but it is Wisconsin.
it's at Wisconsin.
So yeah, not too shocking. So I stayed away.
All right, more Big Ten action at 3:30. Game neither one of us picked here, but see what happens with Penn State. They've had a lot of bad hangover games, which is why their spread of only 14 against Indiana and Indiana isn't too surprising. And I think I'll take Penn State though. Actually, no, I'm going to go with Indiana. They gave Michigan a little bit of a tough game, and we have seen this year after year after year with Penn State against us. They get up for that game, they play their butts off, they lose a heartbreaker, and then they go lay a freaking dud the next week. And this could happen again. I think they win the game, but I don't know if they win by 14.
That's what I was going to say. We're going to beat them twice. Not actually beat them, but I think they're going to be on the struggle bus this week. Indiana's kind of crap, but they have shown that they can play a pretty good game. They're Illinois' only loss. So I could see this being a 1-possession game for sure.
Yeah. Other action though, Illinois, the game you picked here is one of your delights. Illinois 16-point favorites at home against Sparty. Sparty reeling, suspending players, fighting in the tunnel. Just had the emotional game, and they're just not a good team at all, not a good defense. But it's not like Illinois is an explosive offense, so 16 could be a lot of points. But I think I would lean with you with 16, not one of my picks. But, yeah, I'm sure you see them putting it on poor Mel Tucker and his $95 million contract.
You pretty much touched on my main logic here for picking them. I don't know if you saw, but Mel Tucker said he hadn't even watched film on Illinois yet because he was still he felt like the suspensions and all that took precedence over the game at hand.
He's going to jail for that, so yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, all that's on their mind. And Illinois is a legit opponent, and I think Michigan State is crap. And they actually gave Michigan a pretty good fight. It wasn't. I mean, they held them in the red zone, didn't allow many touchdowns, so they probably played up pretty well, kind of like Penn State did to us, not to as much of a degree. So it's kind of like they might fall back down a little bit, plus all that stuff going on. So that's why I picked.
Another 3:30 game that I picked, not a great game at all. Care to guess what the money line is on Oregon at Colorado?
Oregon at Colorado, I'm going to say minus 1,700.
You're way off. Minus 20,000.
Or 17,000, that's what I meant.
Okay.
20.
You're pretty close there. Yeah, 20. Minus 20,000. Yeah, spend 20,000 to win $100.
Or wait a minute. Okay, never mind. I did mean 1,700. Holy crap. I didn't realize how bad Colorado was.
Oh, they are trash. And I've bet against them at least once this year with Minnesota, and that covered only a 31.5-point spread, which seems actually low with that kind of money line.
Are they as bad as Northwestern? Are they as Northwestern?
Worse. They're worse than Northwestern. They have been getting crushed.
Okay.
So they have 49-7.
So they have like one win probably.
I don't even know if they have a win, to be honest with you.
Every team
get steamrolled by everybody this year. They may have a win. I don't know.
I know every team has one win because I saw an article about it, and it might have been Colorado that was the last team to get their win.
They're really bad, and Oregon's rolling. So 31.5, I'll lay that. Like I said, it almost seems too low, but it's not a low spread on the road for anybody in a P5 conference, as we saw with our game with Northwestern. Seems kind of low, even with it being 38. Oh God, what else we got this week? Let's get to that Bama game. Became a way bigger matchup after the CFP decided to put LSU as a top 10 team out of nowhere. Nobody else thinks that. But LSU getting 13.5 at home. This is a game I picked also, and I went with LSU with the 13.5. I think they keep it close enough. I don't think they win, but they're good. They match up somewhat physically with Alabama, and we've seen with this year, if you match up physically with Alabama, they haven't been able to blow anybody's doors off that has been able to. It could definitely be like a 17-point game in the fourth quarter, and I'm hoping for like a backdoor cover. But the hook gets me in there, something like 38-28 is what I'm thinking. But I think I got a little extra leeway there with Bama. It's a tough game, tough matchup for them though. And LSU obviously had the big win against Mississippi and looked like a physical team in doing so, but they also got destroyed by Tennessee earlier this year. So I could be just laying my own death trap here.
Yeah, I wanted to pick that game, and then the whole playoff rankings pissed me off so much, so I didn't want to pick them. So from it. But you just watch. Bama's going to kill LSU, their number 10 team, and then they'll probably jump another undefeated team.
They might deservedly jump Michigan for their crappy schedule, even though I think Michigan's just as good as Bama this year.
Or like if they kill LSU and Clemson wins by a field goal against Notre Dame.
Yeah, that could definitely happen. Or Clemson just loses and then they're just jumping everybody anyway. So Bryce Young Heisman hopes are probably in the toilet. We can talk about Hendon Hooker. We'll talk about the Heisman at the end. Another 7:00 game. Texas, who is also ranked kind of surprisingly at 24 there in the CFP poll, playing at the Kansas State team that just laid the freaking wood on Oklahoma State. Bitch, get off me. 48-0. I picked Oklahoma State. I was only 46.5 points off, though. They were getting a 1.5. Backup quarterback in too. So it was surprising that at home they are 2.5-point dogs to Texas. So that just says ballsy pick territory. Take Texas all day because it's weird. What do they know? And that's who I'm going to go with, but not one of my picks. But I think this is a direwolf delight as well.
Yep, it was one of my picks, and I was having trouble picking 5 this week because there's a lot of good games, big matchups, and this one caught my eye that, man, why in the hell are they favorites over Kansas State? So that was one of those ballsy ones where the obvious pick is to pick Kansas State, so I went with the opposite, Texas.
Quinn Ewers out there trying to save Steve Sarkisian's job right now because he might be leaning into getting fired territory the way coaches are going this year.
Yeah, true.
7:30 game. Big one for Clemson is it's maybe their last big test of the year until they play probably North Carolina, almost for certain North Carolina in the conference championship. Traveling to South Bend in November, but it's probably not going to. Well, actually, if Ohio State's getting the bad weather game, this could definitely be a bad weather game. It's the same part of the country. But Notre Dame 4-point underdogs at home right now. They have been basically played to the level of their competition all year. They've owned the ACC so far, beaten. They only lost for North Carolina, and they're only the second loss. The other one being Clemson for Syracuse, and they beat Syracuse worse. I like Notre Dame playing up for this one. They beat Clemson last time they came in their touchdown Jesus territory. I'll take them at least keeping it close enough to cover with that 4.
Yep, that was one of my picks. And just like you said, I mean, Clemson, I just don't trust them. And not that Notre Dame's anything to write home about, but they're it's kind of like which team shows up, because they lose to Marshall, but they play us close. They beat Syracuse worse than Clemson beat Syracuse.
But they lose to Stanford.
Yeah, Stanford. They don't lose those stupid games, and they're sitting at top 10 territory right now.
Yeah, they have good wins, but they have some terrible losses.
Quick on the CFP with Notre Dame, I did not think they should be ranked at all. But after seeing Texas ranked, then I'm thinking, if you start comparing them, they both 5-3. They both have losses to us and Bama. And then you start looking at the other losses. They lost to a crappy Texas Tech. Notre Dame, Marshall. That's what's killing them.
Yeah.
But Stanford and Texas Tech, I feel like, are equal.
But their wins are better than Texas.
And you look at Notre Dame's wins, and they're better than Texas's.
Yeah.
So I feel like Notre Dame should be ranked compared to Texas, if either one of them. So just all in all, I'm thinking it's going to be a really close game. I actually think Notre Dame might pull this one out, but 4 points. I could see Notre Dame winning majority of the game, and then Clemson doing what they do, coming back and kicking like a last-second field goal to win by 2 or something.
Yeah. If Notre Dame wins this game, I think they move into the top 20. So you have to move them ahead of all those ACC teams that are sitting there at 20 through 22, because they all lost to Clemson. And Notre Dame has beaten everybody including Syracuse, have beaten everybody in that group.
And they've already shown that even if you have more losses, you can be ahead of teams that you beat.
But why aren't they ahead of Syracuse then?
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for the logic there, CFP. One last game we'll hit on. Well, actually, we'll have to hit on 2 more, unfortunately. We'll do one of those ACC matchups. They actually play each other, so they could definitely pass them. Wake Forest and North Carolina State. Wake Forest 4.5-point favorites at North Carolina State. I think North Carolina State is overrated and junky, but Wake Forest just got beat by 27 by Louisville last week. So the hell knows with this crappy-ass conference. And North Carolina State has 2 1-point wins against ECU and 2-6 Virginia Tech, and a 2-point win in there. So 3 of their 6 wins are by 2 points or less. I don't think they're good at all. I think Wake Forest can be good, but obviously last week they were not good at all. But I'll still take Wake.
Yeah, I have no idea on this one, but Wake, last year they were one of the best offenses in the country for the longest time, right?
Yeah, they were for a lot of this year, and then all of a sudden they lay an egg against Louisville last week. Flat out.
They keep that going, and I don't know if that bad loss, it could go one or 2 ways, I guess. It could either fire them up to, come out firing on all cylinders, or it could be one of, like what we were saying before about them beating them twice, and they just, this is like their downhill sled. But my gut would be Wake Forest is going to cover.
Yeah. All right, and our last game, keep an eye on the enemy. That's the only reason we talk about Michigan going to Piscataway for a little nighttime party in Jersey with Rutgers. Kind of an interesting line because it's minus 26, and Rutgers actually is a really good run D, and all Michigan likes to do is run the ball. But Rutgers also has a very pathetic offense, slightly better than Iowa's, but not by a lot. And I think that leads to cover city here for Michigan. I could see it being like pretty low scoring, but like 35-6 could be the score. Actually, man, I was just thinking 31-7. That wouldn't be a cover, but I'll take Michigan to cover either way.
Yeah, I thought that spread was surprisingly low. I almost picked Michigan as one of my picks, but I stayed away just because of, like you said, Rutgers' run defense is actually solid, and Michigan's pretty much one-dimensional at this point. They can throw it a little bit, but I don't see Rutgers keeping this close. I could see it being like a 38-10, something like that. Is that what you said first?
I said 35-6, but yeah, similar gap. Yep. All right. That's all for our picks this week. We'll go through our picks for the playoff real quick, like we usually do at the end of these. but I'm not going to expound. Listen to our college football playoff ranking podcast to hear our total thoughts on this. But I'm still going right now with Tennessee, Georgia, Ohio State, and TCU as my 4, which I believe is what I had left. No, I think I had Bama back in there. But I'm definitely sold that there will be 2 SEC teams. If you look at these college football rankings, they're definitely in it. And I think whoever wins this game will beat Alabama and secure the other team's spot in the playoff.
Yep. I'm with the old adage of Bama's probably pissed off that they've lost a game, and I'm not going to bet against them until they lose. I'm just not. So I think they're going to end up winning the SEC, and then whoever wins the game this weekend, or whoever loses the game this weekend, will actually be the 4th team in, and I think that'll be Tennessee. And then us winning the Big Ten, going undefeated, and I'm still going to say Clemson, even though I did pick Notre Dame to cover the spread, but I think Clemson ekes it out, and you can't leave out an undefeated Power 5 team.
Right. Oh, for sure. And anybody who thinks otherwise is a jackass. It will not happen. See Notre Dame in 2018.
Yeah.
Any undefeated P5 team will get in, assuming there's not too many of them, more than 4. Also, real quick, Heisman odds. Hendon Hooker took the lead now, is now the Heisman favorite in Vegas. And he has a chance to really make it difficult for C.J. Stroud or anybody to catch him, for that matter, if it's on a show in Athens this week. Your thoughts there? I'm kind of leaning towards him being the play now, even though the odds aren't great for him anymore.
Yeah, I mean, it really depends. I didn't really completely get him jumping into the lead because, I mean, Hooker did have a great game against Alabama, but they kept referencing that Heisman moment when Bama missed the field goal and then had 11 seconds and he threw 2 passes or whatever it was and they kicked a field goal. Well, Stroud, they were down in the 4th quarter, and, I mean, it was more of Cade Stover breaking tackles and stuff, but it wasn't just those couple plays. He was on fire in that 4th quarter.
10 for his last 12.
He was moving the ball down the field. He was orchestrating those drives. So, if anything, I felt like that was a Heisman moment. But yet Hooker jumps him. But I mean, it's obvious for sure. If he is the reason why they beat Georgia this week, he's going to be clearly the favorite. But it's like I mentioned in the previous podcast, it's the Heisman voters are typically, what have you done for me lately? I mean, because Stroud has dominated all year until Hooker had that one good game against Bama. So Hooker will jump ahead of Stroud, but then if Stroud dominates against Michigan and we beat him, then it'll be neck and neck again, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I think similar things, but right now I would put my money on Hooker if I had to, unfortunately. All right, that'll do it for us this week, though. Go make some money. Please don't blame us, or write to us. Leave us some good karma if you do win some money, because we need it. But like us, subscribe, comment, follow us on Twitter @ViewFromCDEC, and we will catch you guys later.
Hey guys! Oh, big gulps, huh? All right. Well, see you later.
A rich man's world. I have turned the soul of this beautiful land, but that